welcome to Movement Not Miracles. I am Anna from Eat, Move, Be Happy. I look like I've been dragged through a hedge backwards a little bit. I haven't been dragged through a hedge backwards, but I have been outside with the dogs and it's a little bit windy and chilly, but quite fresh, so that's nice. But now, Movement Not Miracles is your bite-sized version of ideas to keep your joints mobile, keep those muscles stretched and flexible, and avoid some of those aches and pains that we can all get when we find ourselves staying in the same position for too long. So a bit of an all over mobility and stretch session today. So we'll be focusing on keeping things moving and also stretching as we go through. And you will need a strap. Just let me grab mine. A strap or a belt. We're going to do some shoulder dislocates. So I'm using a yoga belt. So something that you can brace your arms against, something that's not flexible. You can use a broom handle, a normal belt, a tea towel, something that allows your arms, your shoulders to go overhead. But to start off with, you can do these seated or standing. I'm going to do them standing because I have spent some of the morning sitting down. So thinking about your weight evenly distributed between your left and your right side. Feet around about hip width apart, standing nice and tall. And I tend to say this quite a lot, but I forget about it, and I think it's worth reminding us that if we're not careful, we can stand like this, so a bit like a bag of spuds. I'm just sort of plopping into this shape, whereas if we stand nice and tall with our shoulders back and down, and I'm thinking of lifting up away from the floor, pushing into the floor, then that actually helps an awful lot with our posture and just helps you feel better. So your joints and how they hang off your skeleton are in a better position. So that is a good start point. So standing nice and tall, and we're just going to start off with shoulder rolls. So lifting your shoulders up towards your ears, we can get a lot of tension across the top, the muscles in the top of our shoulders. So lifting your shoulders up towards your ears and then squeezing your shoulder blades together as you take them back and down. So trying to stay relaxed through the rest of your body. Pay particular attention to what's going on in your head. Is your jaw tense? Are you clenching your teeth? Where is your tongue resting? Is it in the roof of your mouth? If your teeth are clenched and your tongue is in the roof of your mouth, that's a sign of tension in your head and your neck. So just trying to relax through your jaw as you lift your shoulders up and back and down. And really squeezing those shoulder blades together so you've got a nice space across your collarbones, a nice stretch across your chest, but also your shoulder blades are squeezing together. So if I show you from the back, you should see the writing on my t-shirt moving around as I squeeze my shoulder blades there. Okay, so we're now going to grab your strap or your belt. So you need a fair amount of shoulder flexibility to do this one. This actually helps me get more movement out of my shoulders. My shoulders are not naturally very flexible. And the wider your arms are, then the easier this is. Make sure that there should be no pain, so you're not forcing the move, so no pain in your shoulders, but brace your hands. You can see my hands are quite wide apart. And then we're just going to lift up and over. So as we get to, certainly for me there, I get more of a stretch through my chest and I can really feel my shoulder blades squeezing together. So I'm just going to warm up a little bit with my hands quite wide. And again, standing nice and tall, try not to let your lower back arch. And just moving through that full range of movement in your shoulder joint. Right, so I'm going to shorten my hands, the distance between my hands a little bit now. It won't be much because, as I've said, my shoulders are not that flexible. So as long as this is work for you, then that's absolutely fine. If you're finding this too tough with a belt, then just go back to shoulder rolls, and you might want to introduce shoulder rolls with your arms. So lifting your arms back and round. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, as working through movement through your shoulders and working your posture. Using the belt or the strap just enables you to get a little bit more, well, it enables me to get a little bit more movement and work through my shoulders. Now that's about at my limit, so that is really quite hard work. And you can see my right arm is bending there to allow that movement through, to allow the movement all the way around. So the movement's not coming from my shoulder, it's coming from my arm, which is telling me that the strap is too short. So I want the work back in my shoulders. Bring it in a tiny bit more. My shoulders, my upper back always feel better for having done this. The movement through the shoulder joint, but also because you get some stretch across your chest and you're working the muscles in your upper back to move through your shoulder blades, it really does help create some space and help with my upper back posture. Okay, so now we're going to do some twists. So again, we're aiming for the upper back. So to start off with, we're going to try and keep the lower part of our body secure and stable. So if you're doing this seated, make sure you're sitting away from the back of the chair and sitting nice and tall, and shoulders back and down before you start. Same if you're standing, nice and tall, shoulders back and down. But now we're going to make sure that we are gripping through working through our toe muscles. So if you touch your toe muscles, they should be contracting, they should feel hard, and stabilise through your butt so that we're not twisting through the whole of the body like this. We want this bit staying still. So we're just going to twist through the upper part of our body. And to start off with, we're going for mobility. So we're not holding, we're just moving, aiming for movement in the upper part of our spine. And my upper back is resisting a little bit at the moment. It didn't get as much work last week, so it's feeling a little bit stiffer. So I am definitely paying the price of not doing as many Movement Not Miracles sessions throughout the week. So I've learned my lesson. Right, so now we're going to hold a little bit. So we'll take it more into a stretch. So as we move round, we're going to hold it there and try and go, as you breathe out, a little bit further round. Now, for this to happen, I'm working quite hard on the opposite leg. So whichever side you're twisting, this leg is working hard to try and push my body back the other way. So if you imagine when you're wringing a towel out, you twist one way with one end and the other way with the other end. It's exactly the same here. So I'm twisting my shoulders one way, but I'm trying to twist my hips the other. So you should find you're going to be working through the opposite leg as well. So try and think of sitting or standing nice and tall and pushing back with the opposite hip. And keep breathing, don't forget that. Okay, and back to the centre, and then we'll do the same on the other side. Bit of an itch, excuse me. So twist round as far as you can go. I'm twisting to my left, so I'm pushing back with my right hip. Somehow this feels a bit stiffer this side. as you breathe out, can you turn a tiny bit more? And then we're going to do that once more on each side. I know we frequently say the second time is always better, particularly with movement stuff, mobility stuff and stretching. The first time, your body is just getting used to it and your muscles are just getting used to it. So the second time you do get a little bit more movement, mostly. So we are going to try it a second time. So we're going as far as we can go, and then another breath in and out and twist a little bit more. Oh, it's quite useful. I've got, we've had new doors and I've got some glass in my office door now, and I can use it to see my reflection and see how far I can twist around, which is quite useful. A bit of a tactical waggle in my shoulders. Right, and once more the other way. So go as far as you can first, and then relax breath in and out. Oh, nicely done. Okay, bit of a tactical waggle in the shoulders. Now before we move into another spine mobility session, we're just going to stretch across the front of our shoulders and into our chest. So we're going to clasp our hands behind our back and just rest them on the base of your back. Working to keep, we're not letting our bottom stick out like this, so working to keep pushing your hips forward, working through your butt. If you're doing this seated, sitting nice and tall with your shoulders back and down, and then think of, so shoulders back and down, squeezing your shoulder blades together so you've got a nice stretch across the front of your chest and into your shoulders. So the more you can squeeze those shoulder blades and the more you can take your shoulders back and down, then the more of a stretch you will feel, and that actually feels really good. And a couple of breaths, and as you relax through your breathing, you might find that the stretch relaxes a little. Squeeze a little bit more. Okay, and relax in a bit of a tactical waggle. So now we're going to do a sideways mobility move, so bendy annas. So for me, doing these standing, I like to widen my stance a little, just gives me a little bit more stability, and I can also get a bit more movement out of my spine. So again, you can do these seated. We're just going to reach down to start off with, and we're going for mobility, so we'll reach down one way, and then a nice flowing movement will reach down the other way. So we're nice and controlled. So we're going for sort of control, slow movements, but we're not particularly holding the stretch or the movement at the minute. We are going for mobility. Do a couple more, one on each side. And I'm reaching, you might notice, a little bit further down now. That's the second time it's always better rule coming in again. Right, what we're going to do this time is we're going to introduce a stretch. So if you can, one arm up and really reach up first before we reach over. And then we'll do the same the other side. So reaching up first and really reaching over. Oh, that's a really nice stretch down your side here. Now we're going to go for the hold on this stretch. So think of as much of a reach as you can. And then as you breathe out, down as far as you can go, and then really reach over with that hand. And each time you breathe out, can you go a little bit lower or stretch a little bit further over? I am thinking of pushing this hip back and stretching up through that armpit. Couple more breaths. Okay, bit of a tactical waggle with the hips. I can really feel that movement through my spine, which is good. And then we're going to do the other side. So really reaching up to start off with, and then reaching down and reaching over as far as you can go. Make sure everything's relaxed. Jaw, teeth, tongue, and keep breathing. Pushing back through this hip. Oh, and down to the pink stripes on my leggings. And then back we come. Okay. So, we're now going to just do a couple of stretches through our hips. First one, you can do seated. The second one, you do need to be on the floor. So we'll do the one that you can do if you're seated first, and you can just do that second time if you're not able to get on the floor. Now, I am going to show you sitting on the floor just because, well, one of the cats is sitting in the chair, and it's just easier for me with the space that I've got at the moment. So if you imagine, I am sitting in my chair, so this foot is on the floor. You're going to lift, I'll show you from the side, you're going to lift one ankle so that it is resting on your thigh. So notice that I'm sitting nice and tall on the bones of my bottom. I am not falling backwards and sitting on the fleshy part of my bum. So to start off with, you need to make sure you are sitting nice and tall. So can you see? So you're going to rest your ankle on your thigh. Now, we're then going to encourage this knee to go down towards the floor. So you're going to feel the stretch in the outside part of your hip, and you're just encouraging some external rotation through that hip joint. This is a nice gentle push down on your thigh, onto your knee. Staying sitting nice and tall. And keep breathing as you encourage that stretch. Now, because my hips are quite tight, just sitting in, I'll move those around so you can see, just sitting in this position, I can actually feel my hip working there. So sitting nice and tall. If you don't feel this in your hips, it could be that you are sitting back. And you see that I'm sitting sort of leaning back now. So the minute I sit up taller and sit on the bones of my bottom, now I can feel this through the outside of my hip. And just encourage that knee to go down towards the floor. I am leaning on my leg, but I'm not forcing it hard. And I'm trying to stay with my weight forwards and sitting tall. Okay, so if you can access the floor, you can increase that stretch by crossing one foot over the other and hugging that knee in. So we're not going to get the external rotation now, but we're going to get a bigger stretch through that hip. Sitting tall and twisting, so there's another slight twist here. So hug that knee in towards, oh, that sounded really Yorkshire then, didn't it? Hug. Hug that knee in towards your chest and twisting your chest through the gap. So you're going to feel a nice stretch here. I'm pushing the floor away behind me. If I just swizzle forwards a little bit, you'll see a little bit more. So I'm pushing the floor away here and trying to turn my chest through that gap. That's actually a really nice stretch. My hips are quite tight today. And just keep breathing. Okay, and then the other side, which I'll show you from here. So one straight leg, foot flat on the floor, hugging that knee in towards your chest, sitting tall and twisting your chest around. And this side feels equally as tight as my right side. And keep breathing, stay relaxed everywhere else. Okay. So the second hip one, which you're not going to be able to do unless you can get onto the floor. So we're going to kneel on one foot and we're aiming for a hip stretch. So you want a reasonable distance between your heel and your knee, and your heel is in line with your knee. And to start off with, we're thinking of, again, bum's not sticking out, we're not squitching down, sort of kneeling nice and tall away from the floor, and we're keeping this knee back, so we're not letting this happen. If I show you from the side, so we're in this position and we want that knee back, so we're not like this. So straight away we're working through, if you have a little feel of the muscles in the outside of your bum, you're working through those muscles to stabilise that knee. And I want you to think of pushing your hip forward. So my bum's not sticking out, but just look what happens. I straighten through this hip on this side, and you should feel more of a stretch through this hip here. So if I show you from the front again, so I'm working to keep that knee back. My bum's sticking out there, so I can't feel anything here at all, no work at all. The minute I engage my glutes on my right side to push this hip forward, I can feel more work here and more work here, which is what we want. Now, what we're aiming for is, when you get into this position, is you're going to lean towards that way. So we're trying to push our weight using your bum, so we're not bending our body. Your body stays upright, and we're just going to lean as much as we can that way towards the knee that's sticking up. Now you're going to feel a nice stretch on the inside of that thigh. And then when you've gone as far as you can go, I want you to think of driving this hip into the floor. So you'll get a bit more of a stretch through this hip too. And then this is definitely a stretch, so we're holding this. And just relax everywhere else. Make sure that that hip is still driving forward, so work through your glute. Don't let this one get lazy. Couple more breaths. Okay, and back up. And we'll swap sides. So heel in line with your knee, that knee, let me move over a little bit, that knee back, so you're working through your butt to get that knee back, pushing your hips forwards, and then nice and tall, shoulders back and down, relaxed across your shoulders. We're going to lean that way towards this knee, and when you've gone as far as you can go, drive this hip in towards the floor. So you're aiming downwards. Now you're not going to get much movement, but I can feel more stretch in my hip when I relax off. I've still got the stretch here, but there's nothing really going on here. But as soon as I think of driving that hip in towards the floor, I get a bit more of a stretch. So it's subtle. And keep breathing. And relax. an all over blast. Sitting cross-legged is a nice way of just getting some movement through your hips. We don't tend to sit cross-legged, we tend to sit with our thighs at 90 degrees to our hips and our shins at 90 degrees to our thighs. And muscles can shorten and tighten. Joints don't move through their full range of motion, and we can just generally stiffen up. So sitting cross-legged is in itself something that you can do for your hips to look after them. So hopefully you feel a little bit more stretched, a little bit more mobile. Look after your posture, look after your hips. Don't forget, doing something is better than doing nothing, and doing some regular movement and stretching is a really, really good idea. As I said, I'm paying the price for. It was quite a busy week last week, and I didn't do as many stretch sessions, and I'm definitely paying for it this week. So mental note, I've learned I need to keep going with my Movement Not Miracles sessions. So enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Don't forget to check out the website www.eatmovebehappy.com. We can help you to eat more healthily, make some different choices with your food. We can help you move more and move better and generally feel better. We know, research tells us, and we all know when we do it, that if we move a bit more and we are physically more active, we generally feel better. It helps with our mental health as well as our physical health. So eat well, move more and feel happier is the idea behind it all. So check out the website www.eatmovebehappy.com, and I will see you tomorrow at midday for another Movement Not Miracles.